We're waiting on Pam.
All right, I'd like to call this meeting to order and apologize that we're running a bit behind schedule. May I have approval of the agenda, please?
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries to approve the agenda. May I have Pledge of Allegiance, please?
Yes, ma'am. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, I'm going to move on to announcements and recognitions. May I have announcements, please?
Good evening. We have several teams who are advancing this season that we would like to wish them well in their games this week. Boys soccer won regionals. They advanced to sectionals and will play at 7 p.m. on Thursday at Middleton. There is a fan bus organized for this game. Contact our high school athletic department for more information. Boys volleyball will also be traveling on Thursday. They are headed to McWanago for their first regional game. Girls swimming will host the conference swim meet at 1 p.m. on Saturday. Come out and support our Purple Knights. Our staff are in week 2 of their United Way at Work campaign. Many staff members are stepping up to support organizations in our community who serve our families. We are proud of their efforts. The campaign ends Friday and they have already raised nearly $9,000. Our early literacy team is hosting a Families Play, Learn, and Grow Together event this Saturday, October 28th from 9 a.m. until noon at the Merrill Community Center. There will be lots of activities for children aged birth and up. Each child will receive a book for attending. This year, Robinson Elementary School set out to read 100,000 books as the school community. They are thrilled to report that as of today, Robinson has read 39,000 books. The Beloit Memorial Theater Department Fall Play, The Government Inspector, performances are November 9th through the 11th at 7:30 p.m. and November 12th at 2 p.m. There are many events happening all around our district. We encourage you to watch our district website and Facebook pages for more information. This concludes tonight's announcements.
Thanks, Wendy. I'm going to move on to recognitions.
Thank you, Madam President and members of the board. One of the things that we started a few months ago is trying to recognize some new employees and new administrators to put a face with the name. And so tonight, we are very lucky to have with us Janae Banks Wilson. Last year, she stepped into, so come on down. Yeah, it's like you're a contestant on being recognized by the board. So we are very lucky to have Janae Banks Wilson step into the role as assistant principal at Beloit Memorial last year, and she served that role on an interim basis. Well, now we know that she is an asset and we can't live without her. So the district is very pleased that she has accepted that role as on a more permanent basis this year and is no longer interim. We're very excited that she is with us, and so we'd like to officially welcome and recognize Janae Banks Wilson as an assistant principal for Beloit Memorial High School. Sir, would you like to say anything? What's that?
Okay. No, thank you. I'm excited to continue my journey at Beloit Memorial. It's been an amazing experience. growing, learning, helping the students reach their full potential. So I'm just blessed and thank you. Future Purple Knight here.
That's right. She brought a fan club with us. Pretty awesome. We're glad to see them. Janae, we're really glad that you're with us.
Me.
I just want to say
They want to talk about you.
I have received more and more compliments from students and staff than I can ever recall in the hiring of an assistant principal. And I just want to say thank you for your diligence. You get the job done. You're respected. And we are very lucky to have you.
I would be remiss as a board member to publicly thank you for your professionalism, your courtesy, and to publicly apologize to you for the way that you were treated in the paper about your hire. At the end of the day, you proved us right. We're glad to have you and keep doing excellent things. Thank you.
As a parent of high school students, I've seen you at work in the high school, the way you talk to kids, the way that you relate to them, and I'm really glad that you're going to be working with my kids. Thank you.
One more. I just want to say, too, that I've never received an email from a teacher praising the work like I did with you. So you have a lot of people that have a lot of respect for you, and we're happy to have you on board. Thank you.
Thank you.
Janae, I get to go last, and I have to say that you have been involved with my son since he was 5. He is now 17. You were an integral part of his growing up and helping me as a single parent, and I am so excited to have you at the high school with our kids. So thank you, congratulations, look forward to seeing you in those halls.
Thank you.
Well, let us continue the theme of recognizing some folks from Beloit Memorial. So tonight we have the very distinct honor of having 2 Beloit Memorial students who have been honored by the National Merit Scholarship Foundation. If I could welcome up here Devin Wolf and Eleanor Conover Crockett. That way the camera can get you. There you go. I'm going to let them stand in front of the podium so I can talk about them for just a moment. Because being named a National Merit Commended Student or semifinalist is no easy task. So Eleanor has been named a National Merit semifinalist. There are approximately 34,000 commended students, which is the award that Devin received, and there are 16,000 semifinalists, the award that Eleanor received. Let me tell you a little bit about National Merit for those of you who might be unfamiliar with the program. About 1.6 million juniors and more than 22,000 high schools across the country entered the 2018 National Merit Scholarship Program by taking the 2016 preliminary SAT National Merit Scholarship Qualifying Test. The pool of semifinalists represent less than 1% of the U.S. high school seniors, including the highest scoring entrants in each state. To eventually become a finalist, a semifinalist in his or her high school, in our case, her high school, must submit a detailed scholarship application which includes academic records, participation in school and community activities, demonstrated leadership abilities, employment, honors, and awards. A semifinalist must have an outstanding academic record throughout high school to be endorsed and recommended by a high school official. They have to write an essay, earn SAT scores that confirm the student's earlier performance on the qualifying test. Principal Carol Campbell said, "We're incredibly proud of the accomplishments of these 2 students. They both excel in and out of the classroom and truly represent what it means to be BMHS proud." I will say that when I first met these 2 students, I said, "Tell me what you're involved in." So we must have stood there for about 20 minutes as they list what I thought was every club and activity and organization that is offered at the high school. And I just want to point out that in addition to everything they're involved in, they're also a part of the Beloit Memorial Jazz Orchestra, which recently opened up for Wynton Marsalis in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. So if you would please join me in applauding and honoring Devin and Eleanor for their academic achievements. painless? Good. You're good.
Excuse me, you two, I just want to say, first of all, the last student I know of from our district that received the semifinalist award recently graduated from Harvard Medical School and is a pediatrician now. So, not to tell you that you have to do such wonderful things, but
No pressure.
I just think, it's good to know that we're putting out these kind of kids. And I'm really proud of both of you. And, it's one thing to be brilliant, but it's another thing to work hard. And you're fortunate to have wonderful parents. I know both of your parents. I know your grandparents. So I know they're all proud of you and they helped you get here, but it's your hard work that really did it. And so I'm thankful for you setting an example for other kids and for doing this for yourselves. And I saw you perform in Milwaukee. It was awesome. Thank you and congratulations.
I just want to say thank you. And I want to you two, my children have hung out with you guys on and off, and you're delightful people. You're not just really bright and really involved in things. You're nice and you're kind, and you should be very proud of yourselves. Thank you for your hard work.
Thank you both. You guys can go ahead and sit down. I'm sorry, I'm holding you up here.
We have two more students that we would like to recognize tonight. As we're continuing among the theme of recognizing some top students, I'd like to call up here Jessica Chavez and Elton Rodriguez. And because he's here, I would be remiss if I did not invite their instructor, Chris Labrie, to come up and join them, because their honor is as much his. So come join them, Chris. So let me tell you a little bit about their accomplishments. So these two students at Beloit Memorial scored among the top business students nationwide on a very rigorous exam focusing on the principles of economic. It's one of a series of exams that are a part of the High School of Business program. It's a nationally accelerated business administration program that we started last year at Beloit Memorial. Students go through the program as a cohort of students, and I'd like to tell you that the national average for this particular exam is 52%. The reason I invited Chris up here is because the average of Beloit students is 76%. So I feel like Mr. Labrie deserves as much of the applause as our students today. So Jessica and Elton both scored incredibly high on this exam, much more than the national average, and I won't give away their scores. I'll protect your privacy, but it is also much more than the Beloit student average. So as much as we have to be proud of all of our business students, we are especially proud to recognize Elton Rodriguez and Jessica Chavez. Oh, I would like to point out that Elton was number 5 in the country and Jessica was number 20 in the country. So join me in congratulating these students and the entire program.
So business is my area, and I love it. I've been teaching it for a night. I got an empty desk in the room. Okay. I may take you up. I may stop by and just see how things are going. I would like to congratulate you. It's good to see your success in business. It's no secret that we need to see more people of color in the area of business. And there's a school, Dr. Johnson, about 35 miles away. What's the name of that school? UW-Whitewater. Yes, UW-Whitewater. That has an excellent business college. Thank you.
Thank you both so much. I had lunch with student leadership a couple of weeks ago. I am not at all surprised. You all are so impressive to hang out with, and we are proud of you. So thank you.
Thank you.
All right, moving on to citizen delegations. Do I have any members of the audience who wish to speak to the Board of Education? Okay, seeing none, I am going to move on to superintendent's reports to the board.
Excuse me, before we do the superintendent's report, can I ask that we table the equity update so we can have more time with the student assessment, Dr. Johnson?
Yes. So Mr. Bonds is going to come up to the podium and give a 15-16 and 16-17 student assessment update. I will say that assessment data comes in throughout the year, so there will be more forthcoming, but with that, I will give you Mr. Bonds.
Thank you. And if you take a look at Elton, he dresses like that pretty much all year long. He's sharp, seriously. He does have a dressed out day. Oh, yeah. That's pretty awesome, though. So thank you for this opportunity to share a little bit of our data. It is exciting to really share the performance of our students, because what we see right now, I'm going to summarize as potential and definitely encouraging results this year. And moving forward, we are definitely certain that we will continue to make a lot of gains. So I apologize up front for a lot of not giving you a lot of eye contact, because I need to follow along from the PowerPoint, as well as I let the community know that if you are interested in taking a look at this presentation, it is a part of the board packet. It will also be posted on the district website by the end of the week. So I just wanted to relay that information. So some of the assessments that we provide our students throughout the year are given to our students. We have the Wisconsin Forward, the ACT assessment, as well as the ACT Aspire that's given to students. Some of the information that I've provided in the packet includes some of our student demographics broken down by school and ethnicity. So I'm going to stroll through that. What you will see is that our district is very diverse. We have schools that range from 75 or 71% free and reduced to all the way up to 98% free and reduced in some of our schools. But overall, our district demographics indicate that we have a truly diverse school district. What I'm excited about here is the fact that if you take a look at our third grade data, Hackett Elementary School, third graders in the year 15-16, 12% of those students were proficient or advanced. And 16-17, 38.5% of students were proficient or advanced. So kudos to Hackett Elementary School for all the work that they're doing. At Robinson Elementary School, you'll notice that 24% were proficient or advanced in 15-16, and in 16-17, 29.3%. At Cunningham Elementary School, you'll see growth there in the year 16-17. Aldrich, you will also see growth there. Fruzen, 39% proficient or advanced in the area of ELA over the year. In sixth grade, also at Fruzen, you'll see a definite increase in the performance from 29% proficient or advanced to 43% proficient or advanced. Seventh grade, that's where an area where you see multiple of our intermediate schools have an increase. That includes Fruzen, Aldrich, and McNeil all had increases of performance for that student group. Cunningham, eighth grade, there was a slight improvement in student performance. So kudos to those schools and the efforts that teachers are engaging in. In the area of ELA, you have a breakdown by ethnicity. There are definitely some strong areas in ELA's performance. If you take a look at overall students' performance, third grade, 26.6% to 28.8%. Moving over to sixth grade, all students, 29% from 23% proficient or advanced. Seventh grade, 18% to 21% proficient or advanced. If you take a look at our African American and Hispanics students, you will see multiple areas where there was increase in performance for those student groups. Students who are termed economic disadvantaged, for third grade, you'll also see a 2% increase and other increases across the board in those students' performance. taking a look at our English language arts performance by cohort. So what does it mean by cohort? Well, this means we are taking a look at the same students from one grade to the next. So if we take a look at this slide, you will see that in all of our intermediate schools, the students who were fourth graders in 15-16, they performed or outperformed in the year 16-17. ELA, when you come to fifth grade to sixth grade, there were two areas to note, Fruzen and Aldrich. There were definitely increases in those students' performance. ELA, sixth grade and seventh grade, there was an increase at Aldrich Elementary School, intermediate school. Go back to grades 7 and 8. There were 3 schools that those student groups increase the percentage of students who were proficient or advanced. That includes Cunningham, Aldrich, and McNeil. And if you take a look at notably Aldrich Intermediate School, 12% of those students were proficient or advanced. In the following year, 20% of those students were proficient or advanced. So kudos to the work that those schools, as well as the increase in McNeil. Mathematics. Again, if you look at third grade, this is the area where we saw the most improvement in all categories. All students, 24% proficient advanced, moving to 27%. African American, Hispanic, as well as 2 or more. You see increases from proficient or advanced. You also, if you take a look at 7th grade, African American students, from 3.3% to 7.4%. Hispanic students, 12% to 15%. 8th grade, there are 4 areas of improvement. Overall student performance from 13.1, which is a slight increase to 13.6. But definitely trending in the right direction. In the area of mathematics by school, you'll see that Hackett Elementary School again. Previous year, 4.6% of those students in third grade were proficient advanced. The following year, 27.1% of those students were proficient advanced. Again, this is a different group of students. This is not a cohort. So I want to make sure that that's very clear. Gaston Elementary School, there was an increase. Merrill, Robinson, increase. Cunningham, increase at 4th grade, as well as Aldrich, 4th grade. And there are also other areas of improvement throughout the schools. Taking a look at cohort when it comes to mathematics. Cunningham had 13.3 at 4th grade, slight decrease in the following year. Notable improvements from 5th grade to 6th grade in Aldrich and McNeil intermediate schools. Student groups moving from 7th to 8th grade, increases at Cunningham as well as Aldrich. Taking a look at the Ford exam, you'll have increases from grade 8 at Cunningham, 18.4 to 18.3. Aldrich Intermediate School, that's where the slight increase occurred there. So in summary, here are some of the strengths that, as you take a look at the data, as we dove into the data, we noticed some definite strengths across the system, things that we want to commend our students and our staff, as well as all of the efforts on the behalf of our staff from Teaching and Learning Innovation and all the support they extend to our students as well as our teachers, because this tells us that we are trending in the right direction. ELA 3rd grade moving from 26.6 to 28, Third grade mathematics increased 24.7 to 27.5. Fifth grade, 26% to 28. Fifth grade mathematics, 23 to 27. Sixth grade ELA, 23.8 to 29.2. Seventh grade, 18.3 ELA to 21.7 ELA. Also in eighth grade, increase from 13.1 to 13.6. Also, if you start thinking about how are we doing with students year to year, and I pointed this out already in some of our data, we saw, and you can see as well, in the area of ELA, that in all 4 schools, the percentage of students who are proficient or advanced increased in grades 4 and 5, from grades 4 to 5. In ELA, 3 out of the 4 schools, the percentage of students increased in terms of proficient or advanced in grade 5 and 6. In ELA, 1 out of 4 schools, the percentage of students proficient or advanced increased in grades 7 to 8, and 3 out of 4 in grades 7 to 8. Mathematics, we had 2 of our schools out of the 4, the percentage increase in grades 5 and 6. In mathematics, 2 of the 4 increase in grades 7 through 8. Moving to our ACT performance. The ACT Aspire is given to our 9th and 10th grade students. The regular ACT is given to our 11th grade students. You will see by the blue boxes, those are the areas of increase from year 14-15 to 15-16. If you look at the composite, there was a slight increase in our composite score from 14-15 to 15-16. The following year from 15-16 to 16-17, again, a slight increase in the composite score for our students, ACT in grade 9. Grade 9 Aspire, this is the one where you can see right away that the number of kids that are on track from the year 15-16 to 16-17 increased from 25.4% making progress, or on progress, to 29% on progress. Information related to our subgroups. So some of the strengths are the percentage of 9th grade students, 25.4% to 29%, which is definitely trending in the right direction. 10th grade ACT Aspire, you also note by the red boxes, those are the areas of increase. Most notably, our composite score. Also pleased with the fact that students' performance on the 10th grade ACT Aspire improved from 19.1% to 24.4%. 10th grade Aspire, this is demographic data for the number of students making progress by ethnicity. Overall strength, 19.1% of 10th grade students on track for ACT readiness, improved to 24.4% ACT readiness. 11th grade ACT. From the year 14-15, you will see an increase in the composite score to 17. From the year 15-16 to the year 16-17, there was a slight dip from 17 to 16.8. And there are a number of initiatives that are underway to ensure that our students are performing to the level that we would like them to perform, including the implementation of a new math curriculum, K-12, that's listed there, a robust professional development that is provided to our staff throughout the year. We also increased the number of math interventionists in our elementary schools and intermediate schools to provide targeted support for those students. As a district, we engage in data analysis always. As you can tell just by the slides there, we have at our disposal a ton of data that we use to make instructional decisions and to make decisions on goals that schools lay out year to year to make that continuous improvement. And again, all of these efforts are listed here and are available for our community on the board packet, as well as they will be posted on the district's website for the community to review. And if they have any questions, they are more than happy to call us or contact us, and we will meet with them and share some of the things that we're working on. At the end of the day, we want people to know that our students are more than test scores. Our teachers are more than test scores. Our students are more than test scores, and we are definitely more than test scores. Thank you. Any questions?
Dr. Johnson first.
I just want to acknowledge that the district administration and the Department of Teaching, Learning, and Innovation recognizes we have a ways to go. And we do have some other embargoed data by the state that should be coming out soon that shows additional progress. But make no mistake about it, the achievement gap, not only here but across the country, is real. And I really want to thank, first and foremost, the Curriculum and Instruction Committee. Dr. Baskin, you have been a very good steward of pushing us. You've been a very good steward of supporting the department financially during difficult times. And I just want to make it clear that we are not complacent. And yes, things are trending in the right direction, but I can tell you that the folks in the back of the room and Mr. Bonds and I, we're pushing, and we thank the board and that committee especially for some of the latitude that you've given us in the tools.
Mr. Bonds, thank you for your presentation. But I'm going to be honest with you and tell you I'm disappointed in the presentation because you only highlighted all of the pluses. And if you look at the data in its totality, it's embarrassing. And so in the future, I would hope you would feel comfortable in giving us all the data. You're not in this by yourself. We are all in this together. And it's important that the community knows what the data reveals. If a person just listened to your presentation, they would walk away thinking that our data results are okay, and they're not. And so when you walk away from the podium later, you don't have to own this by yourself. We all have to work together to move this trend in a different direction. Now I want to ask you some questions, okay?
Yes.
And I'm just going to be very honest with you. I was very troubled with your presentation, but when Dr. Johnson spoke and admitted the deficiencies, I'm going to give you all the benefit of the doubt. But there's some things that we need to discuss, and that's why I asked to put this on the agenda so that the public can hear this, okay?
Absolutely.
And Mr. Bonds, when I ask you a number of questions, I would ask that you not be guarded. In the time that I've worked with you, I've always wanted to get in your mind and to hear what you think are the problems and the solutions as it relates to academic achievement. Dr. Williams, can you come up? This is going to take a moment, so just bear with me, because there's nothing more important than the achievement of our students. Mr. Bonds, in looking at this data, how do you feel? I don't want you to look at Dr. Johnson. I want you to tell me how you feel as the leader.
Looking at the data, I feel that it signifies that we have a long way to go to improve outcomes for kids. I also know that not only do we have a lot of challenges that we have to recognize as a community and what our students bring, I also know that this data doesn't tell the whole picture in terms of what it is that we need to do to improve the lives for kids. So does the data trouble me? Yes. Do I ride down the highway, up and down, thinking about how can we improve performance? Absolutely. I have a lot of time to really just think about how do we improve the performance for our students. So it troubles me. But I also know that I've always thought of myself as optimistic and also a visionary pragmatist, knowing that there are some simple things that we can do to turn the performance around, and that with the right support, the right guidance, that we can really make things happen in that classroom for those teachers. Because this data, all of the other supports, all the extras, nothing matters except what really goes on in that classroom. So does the data trouble me? Yes.
Okay.
But I'm also always looking for how we can really leverage the abilities of our teachers and our staff to make things better. And I'm really confident that we can. Working together, I believe we really can turn things around for our students.
Okay, and Mr. Bonds, I've noticed for the time that I've been on the board, you've done a very good job of focusing on professional development, teacher instruction, and you did a very excellent job with our summer school. What other factors are just as important in the achievement of our students? What does the literature say?
First and foremost,
The biggest one.
Biggest one that, I guess there are a couple of big ones. For me, first, it would be parent engagement. How we engage our families. How do we support them with the resources that they need. Second to that is early literacy and making sure our kids come with some of the skills, or we provide them right up front with the skills that they need when they enter our door, whether it's as 3-year-olds or as 4-year-olds. So those are some of the things, as well as the research will tell you that leveraging the capacity of our adults, those teachers in the classroom. So professional development is paramount, and how we support our staff. How do we uplift them? How do we make sure that they are encouraged each and every day? Those are the things that the research bears out that we need to focus on. Parent engagement, developing the capacity of our staff to leverage their expertise, focusing on early literacy and numeracy for our students, engaging our community for support and leveraging their support. So those are some of the off the top of my head, some of the things that the research bears that we need to focus on as a community.
Dr. Williams, what are the other factors? He's missing one that's very important that the literature talks about.
Classroom management,
Okay.
rigor inside of the classroom. We all know that the most important place in any building is in the classroom.
Okay.
And so providing the teachers with that type of support, and also in addition to that, providing the students with additional opportunities. I think one of the things, and this is our 3rd year here, and one of the major concerns that we saw and was providing the students with extra support. I'll give you a prime example. So take, for example, like summer school. We recognized that there was a need for for the students to receive additional support. So Mr. Bonds extended that to those students. I think a lot of times there's an expectation that things are going to change overnight. We didn't get in this particular situation in a short amount of time. It's going to take a little bit more time to move our students and see that achievement grow. The additional support that's been inside of the classroom, we do the walkthroughs. We are engaging our parents through the walkthroughs and providing that type of support inside of our for our students.
So the other one is what, Dr. Williams? So he said parent and community engagement. We talked about professional development, quality instruction, but there's a big one that the research talks about a great deal about. And I hope that you guys would come up with it.
Leadership.
No, it's not. It's a student engagement. Student engagement, and it talks about adaptive learning orientations, about self-efficacy and motivation. Okay? Mm-hmm. And I think that's where we're missing the mark at. And so My next question to you, Mr. Bonds, and this isn't a challenge, this is a discussion I think we should have had a long time ago as it relates letting the public know that we're taking this very seriously and that we are in a crisis situation. That's what we're in. Our country is in a crisis situation because when you look at the differences in the test scores and the academic achievement across the board, it's not good. And to say that we're moving in the right direction, I think you're giving false impressions. Overall, we're not moving in the right directions because the overall scores in the Beloit School District fell significantly below state averages. And in the paper, it talked about the different categories. Now, knowing that student engagement, Dr. Williams, it is curiosity, it is interest in the classroom, it is outside activities, that summer learning gap. Mr. Bonds, outside of professional development and outside of teacher instruction, what things have we done, programs or initiatives, to deal with student engagement? Because student engagement is the number one impact on a student's achievement. And the reason why I'm so proficient on this, I want to be very fair with you. I did my dissertation on this. Okay?
No problem. Increasing student engagement has been a focus of the district in terms of instructional engagement. So if we're defining engagement as co-curricular, extracurricular activities that students are provided opportunities for, we make sure that through our COC programming that not only are the students who need extra support in reading or math receive that, but we also encourage our buildings to use those after-school funds to provide enrichment opportunities in art and STEM and other areas of high interest to students. So that's how we extend those opportunities to improve engagement and to make sure that there's buy-in from students on wanting to be a part of the school and connected to the school. So with regards to that type of engagement, we have a number of things that we are doing, but when we think about engagement, true student engagement, we're talking about how teachers engage students in those classrooms. How do we make sure that they have high interest books in their hands and supporting teachers and making sure high interest books are in the kids' hand? How do we make sure that teachers are engaging in instructional practices that truly get at what excites kids, especially kids of the 21st century? When we think about all of the devices that we have, how do we leverage our one-to-one devices to enhance the classroom experience for students? How do we make sure that our teachers have available to students manipulatives when it comes to a math lesson? That's how we make sure we engage students, by making sure staff are provided professional development around engaging students. We make sure that resources are available that, again, are high interest to students, and make sure they have the materials when it comes to things like mathematics or STEM, that those resources are available. So when I think of engagement, I think of it in multiple ways, but engagement in the classroom is paramount to improving student performance.
And so what programs and new programs and initiatives have we come up with to increase parent engagement in our district?
One of the things that we are exploring, one of our schools, Merrill, for example, elementary, they have implemented a new program to engage parents. It's called APTT, Academic Parent and Teacher Teams. It's a new program that they are implementing to interact differently with students, to get students and parents, to interact differently with parents, to bring them into the school. Instead of the old way of a parent-teachers conference, it's a different way of meeting with parents, to engage those parents, to bring them in, to make sure those parents are comfortable in knowing what students are expected to know and be able to do, to actually support the parents with some strategies and skills on how they can support students at home. We are looking at expanding the academic parent and teacher teams to our other schools. Some schools, I know Gaston, Todd, and a couple of other schools have indicated that they are interested in exploring this possibility. We have a call set up later. It's either later this week or next week that we have already reached out to the individual from Ed West to discuss the expansion of this program. So that's one example of how we have tried to engage our parents in a different manner.
And I know I said earlier that you've done a good job with professional development and teacher instruction. one of my mentors, Arnie Lee, talks a lot about teacher supervision, about going in the classroom, supervisors and leaders doing teacher supervision. How often do we do that?
Constantly, we, with our curriculum instruction staff, including our coaches, math coaches, and our reading specialists, what we try to do is work with our teachers in a coaching capacity. So it's not always on the evaluative end in a supervisory capacity. So we provide a lot of coaching to our teachers, and that happens constantly. One of the things that we have implemented, I think, over the last 2 years, I think it's been at least a year and a half, is we call it Fidelity of Implementation Walks, where we have our math and reading specialists and directors doing walkthroughs with our building principals and other staff to go into the classroom and to give teachers immediate feedback on things that we are observing. For example, if it's a reading lesson, what do those look for is that when we walk into the classroom, can we see students again? Do they actually have books in their hand? Are students being provided opportunities to actually read? Do we see things in the room that are artifacts that tell us or indicate to us that literacy is important in that classroom? And how do we notice from our teachers how they're engaging and interacting with kids? Are they giving kids opportunities to turn and talk and share the stories that they're reading? So we go into those classrooms and look for evidence of that, and we provide feedback to teachers on what we are seeing. We do that for literacy, and we do that for mathematics.
All right. Before I go to my next question, did you want to respond to that, Dr. Williams?
Yeah, I was just going to say the other piece of that, aside from the instructional piece, because I was thinking about, remember the conversation we had last year about the fidelity of implementation walks and some of the concerns that came about that, but we felt like that was very important. That's why we continue to do it. With professional development, once we do it, we want to make sure that it's definitely being implemented and is engaging students inside of the classroom. But in addition to that, student engagement also alludes to different activities. You know, I always say sometimes a kid only educated at school is an uneducated child. And so we want to make sure that our kids are also involved in other activities. The school district is a place where kids not only get an education, but they also get some experiences. And so, for example, like our student leadership initiative, or like the high school, take for example the High School of Business program that the students were just recognized for tonight. We knew that those were some hooks that the students would enjoy. And I thank the board, because a couple of years ago when we first came here, that was part of the equity plan, to engage more students and provide them with more support to raise the rigor, intensity, and purpose of what we're doing inside of our school district. MEO, LULAC, those different activities. You all supported those types of activities as well. And 2 years ago, we hadn't even heard of LULAC. Right now, we have 2 adult chapters here within the city, 1 student chapter, and with over 71 students in it. Those are additional opportunities that students have to be engaged, that also hooks into the academic piece to keep our kids in school and move forward. So I just want to tie that in on the curricular side of the house, because it all works together.
And so I think that one of the things that I want to mention to you, Dr. Williams, and I think we owe you an apology, because when you were serving in the interim capacity, you proposed a leadership program?
Student Leadership Initiative, to directly address some of the concerns that schools were having with discipline and so forth, and to work with those students.
So after you did that and the board asked you to kind of pull back on it, Mr. Bonds, you had given the ad hoc committee some books. Yes. And I read those books and talked about the different things. We made a mistake by halting you, Dr. Williams, on that, because it is programs like that that get at the heart of student engagement, that get at the heart of adaptive learning orientations. And so we need to revisit that, because it's things more than just a quality instruction and professional development. The meat of it is also the student engagement and the adaptive learning and orientation. We could sit here for hours and talk, because I like this, but let me make some closing comments, and then I'll let my other colleagues ask you some questions. Let me close by thanking you, Mr. Bonds, for finally opening up and having a real discussion about what's needed to move the needle aggressively as it relates to student achievement and outcome. And what I want you to take away from my questioning is I respect your craft and I respect your position. You're an expert, and we need to hear from you. You're getting your doctorate degree. This is your area. You're responsible for it. Very much like we lean on Deidre as it relates to human resource issues, or how we lean on Jamie as it relates to budget, or Emily on student special services. We lean on you as it relates to the curriculum, leadership, but we know ultimately the tough questions should go to Dr. Johnson. But I like the opportunity to have the two assistant superintendents come up and talk about student achievement. And so you passed the test with me, sir. Dr. Williams, so let's revisit that leadership initiative, because I think that the research and the data says that it's those things that have the greatest impact on student achievement. I asked Mr. Bonds, I want to be fair to you. Any personal thoughts about the data as you see it, Dr. Williams?
I think Mr. Bonds has hit the nail on the head. I think it's good to highlight those things, but I'm sure that we all know that there are some areas that we need to improve, and I think that in time you're going to see those areas improve.
All right. Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you.
Anybody else? Go ahead.
I want to point out how a factor that could affect how your data could have been affected. From personal experience, from taking the ACT Aspire from my 9th grade, my 10th grade year, I'm going to be perfectly honest with you. I did not take it seriously, and I have peers who didn't took it seriously either. And then, however, when we retook the ACT Aspire again in 10th grade, I've done a lot better because it was the same test as the year before. And I'm not sure if that tells you anything, but so yeah. And then I also want to point out how, the achievement gap is real, and I want to also point out the psychological factor that comes into it, which is the stereotype threat. So do you know what I mean by the stereotype threat
Yes.
at all? And it is real. It is affected. It affected me as a person of color, being from the stereotype threat. And I mean, it is hard because when I was a sophomore, I took a knowledge that on the average Hispanic gets a 17 on the ACT in Beloit Memorial. And it does hang on to the back of my head. I don't realize it, but after taking the ACT, I came to the conclusion, I'm not going to do as well as I think I'm going to do, because according to the data, I'm most likely going to get a 17. And I have something else written down, but that's all for now.
Thank you for sharing. And that's why I wanted to end with that slide, because we don't realize how much pressure we put on our students each and every day. Think about the number of messages, and Dr. Baskin, thank you, because now you have me comfortable up here wanting to just talk about this all night long.
Go ahead.
This is teaching and learning, so I'm loving this, but I know we're on a time schedule, but our kids are bombarded each and every day with this thing called the achievement gap. Think about what this does psychologically to students, to hear each and every day that they're less than. And then here we are constantly pounding it into them. Improve those scores, improve those scores, improve those scores. Yes, we want our students to have the best experience as possible. And if we continue to do all the things that we have discussed earlier with regards to what the research says in terms of best practices, the scores will take care of themselves. We have to learn to take care of our students, our families, and our staff. If we do that, our students' performance will improve.
Can I just, I'm so glad you brought that up, because this was one of the areas that we talked about a year and a half ago. And to try to address some of those issues, as you recall, we had ACT prep at the high school. And it started off kind of slow, and then we formalized it more. And Mr. Bonds also bought books for all of the juniors to help with increasing the ACT scores. In addition to that, we had several seminars. I wanted to bring that up because it's important, because I think this school district, and I've been in others, this school district offers a lot to try to work with students and try to dispel those myths that you just brought up here today. Just because you're Latino, you don't have to score 17. We could take some of those extra credits, those extra courses and sessions that we had at the high school to help improve our score. And I'll be honest with you, there were several students who participated, and there were several students who did not take advantage of that opportunity. But I tell the kids all the time, you will not walk out of here saying, I didn't know, or you did not have the opportunity. And we'll continue to offer those things to try to help the students, and we specifically target it because we know that our African American and Latino students score lower. But I can tell you, nobody scored, the scores are not anything that you want to write home and tell your grandmama about. So we can all improve. But I think it's important that when those opportunities are there, and they are there, that we all take advantage of them. And we have to do a better job of communicating that to the parents, but also encouraging those students and making sure they participate in them.
So I promise not to take as long as my esteemed colleague on the end. Thank you for bringing that up, because what this student's comment points to is the importance of, paying attention that we have a diverse faculty, and B, that we continue to do professional development that encourages teachers to look at their biases and pay attention to how those play out in the classroom and in one-on-one interactions with students. Because it's one thing to say, we need to, close the gap and get the points up. In one-on-one interactions, we need to make sure that students are feeling valued by teachers, because that connection, and that's K through 12, and then post-secondary, that connection, that engagement, that attention from a teacher is often the thing that keeps kids in paying attention in the classroom and sometimes even staying in school. Thank you.
Thank you.
So I am so proud of you. Again, I had lunch with student leadership at Beloit Memorial High School, and I think some of the answers to our achievement gap are walking and students in that high school. I posed a question to them during lunch and said, what do you think? What do you think about the achievement gap, and what can we do? What can you do? And there were some phenomenal answers that came out of just one lunch, and I appreciate you stepping forward and talking tonight. I think we have a student body that has some answers as well, and sometimes we don't ask them enough.
I also want to emphasize how it's really important. There's no easy answer to the achievement gap. I can see that. I can see through all the factors that come along with it. But I really want to emphasize the importance to set the foundation in students at a young age. Because from a personal experience, I couldn't speak or enunciate correctly in neither language, Spanish or English, so they put me in special education, which also set me back in reading. And sorry, I'm kind of nervous.
You're doing a great job.
So, okay, so I was set back on it, and once they realized that I did not deserve to be in the special education room. And this happened in South Beloit. Their district isn't the greatest. When they put me in a normal classroom, regular English classroom, I remember comparing yearbooks year by year. Only a few white kids moved on to first grade. And there was a big percentage of Hispanics who got held back. And what I want to get through is it's really important to not attack, but get the kids involved at an earlier age so it can set them up for success and more ambition as they grow up. Because when I was little, living in the trailer parks, there was a bus would come by. I would see on TV kids would go to school, and I wanted to go to school. I snuck out of the house to catch the bus. And yeah, and it's really important to influence the children at a young age so it can set them up for success in the long term.
Thank you.
Excellent. Anybody else comments? Pam.
Evelyn, I completely agree with you. And since I got on the board, I've been trying to say, I think the secret is, and everyone probably agrees with this, to, attack the problem in 4K all through elementary school, and then we won't have so many problems later. Of course, we have to address it all, but that's where we need to have our focus, is in the earlier grades. And Dr. Williams, I wanted to ask you, how are you promoting the tutoring program that I just found out about and just became a part of? Beloit 100, was it called?
Yes, ma'am.
Because I was surprised to learn about it from a friend. And so I wonder, how are we promoting it? Because I really think if we could get a lot of citizens tutoring those young kids, it'll make a big difference.
I'm really glad that you brought it up, and I also want to say thank you for sending your form in. But that's the program that I mentioned to the board many times before, that we were going to promote that and get more volunteers inside of our schools. We have several adults and students who are a part of that initiative, to include Devin Wolf, who's one of our students, who's part of it, who was recognized here tonight. And after tonight, you'll start to see that. It started off as a grassroots movement, and the goal is to connect those people who care with those students' needs. And so that's been working out really well so far. And so we'll be running an article inside of the newspaper here very soon, and then you'll see more people become a part of that initiative. So we're very excited about it at this point. Right now, we have about 29 people who are a part of that. That's not to include our MEO and Latino tutors that we have inside of all of our schools. If you added up both of those groups, you have close to 70, 80 people who are a part of that. And just to add to what you mentioned, you alluded to diversity, the importance of being of diversity inside of our schools. This is why we started that program, the African American Latino program, because you do have situations where students from kindergarten all the way up through the grades rarely get to see a person who looks like them. I can't tell you how many times I get principals have said, when is the tutoring program going to start? We need some of those students inside of our schools. And I can't tell you how many times the students, because we're in these schools every single day, and to see our students over there working with other students, it gives those students the motivation to say, you know what, I can do that. That student looks just like me. And to a kindergartner or first grader or second grader, a high school student is an adult, and it makes a world of difference. So I thank you all for supporting those initiatives, but we just have to keep moving forward.
Thank you. And then I did have one question for you, Dr. Johnson. When you were principal, you had a student roundtable discussion, and I think it was, you chose certain students that you thought could contribute to it, and you met with them and had talks with them.
Yep.
Is that going on still?
My understanding is that there is some iteration of that. I don't think it's called the same thing that we called it at the time, but I will say between the board president and the principal, as well as the assistant principals, they are seeking feedback from students in a mechanized fashion.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
So, Mr. Bonds, you had admitted that this weighs on you when you drive home. And I want to be very transparent with you and tell you that this weighs very heavily on me. That's one of the reasons why I ran for the board. And from a personal perspective, I believe that I've done everything that I could to help the administration to address this. Dr. Anderson-Levy and a couple of other people who were on initially, we've had to deal with a number of tough things to clear the way from some unfortunate situations in the past. And I want to go on the record to say that despite the fact that the numbers are not good, I believe that we're in a good position. I'm confident in our leadership, Dr. Johnson. I'm confident in our assistant superintendents and our cabinet. I'm confident in our teachers. I know that we haven't been able to give them the type of money that we need to give them, but we're showing what we can within the limits of the law. That really teachers are being asked to do more because a lot of things are not happening at home that teachers and administrators have to deal with. So Mr. Bonds, know that this weighs on us. If I could close, I want to share a personal story with you. When I went off to college, I went to an event, and they had us stand up to introduce ourselves. And I stood up and I said my name, and I said I was from Beloit, and I stated our population. And everybody started laughing and giggling. And I was able to state the population because I know so much about Beloit, because I've loved Beloit. Beloit has been good to me. And as I sit here and make the decisions, I want to make sure that students have the same opportunity that I had by going through the Beloit Public Schools and having the opportunity to go get an advanced education. And so, Mr. Bonds, don't take it personal that we're all in this together, and we're going to make a better difference. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, moving on, we agreed to table the equity update, so I'd like to move to reports to the board. Student board member report, please.
I have that the LULAC Club recently collected items such as clothing, food, water bottles, and hygiene products for the victims of the earthquake in Mexico. And I've also been notified that LULAC will start a LULAC Junior Council at McNeil and Cunningham, which is great because it'll emphasize more student engagement in the long run. As Ms. Sanchez mentioned before, that the Beloit Memorial varsity soccer team won regionals and will face Middleton on Thursday for sectionals. The Beloit Memorial Theater Department will show the play called The Government Inspector on November 9, 10, 11, and 12. I'm in it. So a little bit of background information of what the play is. It's a satirical farce about a bunch of buffoons running a town in central Russia. A government inspector has come to the town incognito to inspect the town and to report back to the Tsar. Okay. So I've been out the halls during lunch, and I would talk to my peers and classmates and students about any issues they want me to bring up. I'm hearing a pattern that the food isn't the greatest. And that's about it. But what I'm hearing is there's an issue about the parking passes at school. So what I'm hearing is that the parking pass is really expensive for students to be able to afford it. And what they're saying is that when there are students parking in the streets, which would cause more traffic in the morning, and which can lead to a safety hazard. And I've also had a comment mention that they want a specific parent route to where parents can drop their kids off because of the traffic. And I guess what I've been told is that if they lower down the parking passes for price-wise, more people will be able to afford the parking pass. People are less likely to park in the street and cause less traffic. That's the idea from this. And these are not my words, these are the students. And I also have written down is that there's a discipline issue. So what I've seen and what other students have seen is we're in class, and you have these bad apples in the bunch who misbehave. When the teacher sends them out to the ALE room, they end up coming back which reduces the authority the teacher has over the classroom. And it is true, because once that student comes back to the classroom, he unconsciously thinks he or she has a right to behave that way the next time and the next day and the day after that. And I'm wondering why the ALE room is air conditioned, because it seems more of a privilege to be in there than a consequence. And yeah, and there's also been times where teachers would be forced to send half the class out because half the class are misbehaving. And I've heard that if a teacher sends half the students to the ALE room, the administrators would attack the teacher for it. And that's my student report.
All right, thank you. Moving on to Equality Committee report.
Can I make one quick comment? That was a great student report. And it's good to have a student rep who's really telling it like it is and really representing the students and giving us so much information. I really appreciate it.
Can we table the Equality Committee report too as well?
I am agreeable to that. Is
good.
Anybody in an objection to that? All right, we will go ahead and table the Equality Committee report. May I have committee reports, please? Finance, Transportation, and Property. I would entertain a motion to table all committee reports. Well,
I move that we table all.
I'm not sure that you can do that. I think you have to give the committee reports so that people know what happened at your committees over the last.
Okay, can I move that we do it in 10 seconds or less? I'm kidding. Okay, no, I'm kidding. Okay, Finance, Transportation, and Property met on October 10th. We had the annual investment performance review of OPEB. We had the proposed budget overview of the 2017-18 budget and our usual waiver of rental fees. And that's all.
Curriculum and instruction.
It was a relatively short meeting. We had a preview of the data report that we had tonight, and we had a review of high school graduation requirements. So we reviewed the high school, Beloit Learning Academy, our virtual school. All students are required to receive 26 credits, and all students are mapped into the same standards as Beloit Memorial. And that was about it.
Policy and Personnel.
Sorry, the Policy and Personnel met on September 26th. We discussed additional allocation of a HR generalist in HR. It's a lot of demanding duties and higher expectations in HR, so the committee moved approval to the full board for the HR generalist position. We approved personnel recommendations and discussed future items for discussion. And then the Policy and Personnel Committee met on October 10th. We dealt with personnel recommendations. There were a number of policies for first read. Policy 187, public participation at board meetings. Policy 481 that deals with student work permits. And policies for second read that we considered was Policy 161.1, board email communications. Policy 161.1, school board email communications to the full board. And we looked at Policy 831, Rule 1, which was administrative guidelines for scheduling. There were no labor updates. Board member Charles gave an update about Representative Lautenbach is available to meet with the board in late November, and the meeting was adjourned at 7:22.
Thank you. May I have a motion for the consent list, please?
I'll move approval of the special board meeting minutes, the board business meeting for September 26th, and the special board meeting for October 10th, and also the approval of the August financial summary.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Business action items. Do I have a motion to combine some of these?
I'll move approval of the student 60 fund student activity groups, and I do have one question to ask. So, of whoever, after I get a second.
I'll second.
Okay. Who do we ask a question to about that? Well, Jamie, or maybe I really want to ask this to Dr. Williams. We talked about student engagement a few minutes ago. I noticed that some of the schools have clubs that others don't have. And that's a little troubling because that might be something that a student wants to go to and can't because he's at the wrong school, like drama club. What can we do to get schools across the board equal as far as the opportunities they offer to the students to keep them engaged?
That's exactly what we're going to have to do is talk to those the administrators at the school and talk about how we can include more clubs and so forth for those students who want to participate. Because some schools have chess, for example,
yeah,
and some schools don't. So that's
and
one.
Drama, I think that's one that every school probably has students that are interested in. So I appreciate that.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
So I guess if we're going to do that, then I feel like it's important that we also talk about other kinds of clubs. And I'm
Sure.
thinking about LGBTQ in particular.
Sure.
Because that is not at every school right now.
No, but it is
good idea.
Expanded, and there's a lot of support. Matter of fact, that was the topic at our last professional development for the entire district.
Right.
And not only just that as a one-time shot, but for the past 2 years, there's been ongoing support and in meetings here inside of the school to address those particular issues.
Yeah, thanks for bringing that up, Pam.
Yeah, and I want to clarify that I didn't mean one club. I was
understand.
talking about, I noticed several schools didn't have clubs, other schools did, so I'm talking about all of them. Thank
Correct.
you.
Yes, ma'am.
Any other comments? All right, I have a motion to approve 60 fun student activity groups in a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
President Indris, I would like to consider.
The second was Lisa.
President Indris, I would like to consider C, D, E, and F, and G.
All right, I have a motion for approval of Policy 187, Public Participation at Board Meetings, Policy 481, Student Work Permits, Policy 824, Rule 1, Procedure for Access to Public Records, first reading. All of those are first reading. I apologize. Policy 161.1, Board Email Communications, second reading. G2?
Yes.
Yes.
And Policy 831, Rule 1, Administrative Guidelines for Scheduling Tobacco Cessation Clinics, deletion, second reading. Do I have a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? C through G are approved. Do I have a motion for additional allocation for human resources?
Go ahead.
Move approval.
I'll second. But
And discussion?
yes. So the public is noticing that we are requesting an allocation of a generalist, which is a common position in our Human Resource Department. Our Human Resource Department is embarking on a number of initiatives, and the Human Resource Department is going to be doing a review. And if I support this, if it comes back that we need to cut one of the other positions, I would hope that the administration will be forthcoming of that. Okay? Is that agreed? Absolutely. Thank you.
Any other discussion?
Yes.
Go ahead.
Did this information that we received tonight, the bundle of information, the packet we received in policy and personnel, did the board receive this at another meeting?
No, you have requested the job descriptions for the other positions
Okay.
in HR. So
I'm asking that we table this so that I can look at this. I mean, we're talking about adding an administrative position, correct?
No, it's not
All right,
administrative.
we're adding a position that we've never had before. And I haven't had time to look at this. It came out in policy and personnel, and I saw it on my desk, but I haven't even opened it. I can't vote on this, not understanding it and not being able to study it. It is a $70,000, $75,000 increase, and I don't think we even budgeted for it, so I really need to think about it.
We had,
No, we did not budget for this, so.
Okay, wait, I have Shelley, Lisa, then Dennis.
So
We had a
I-
lengthy discussion about it at the last meeting, and I think the only follow-up was that after that discussion, and we agreed, I think in general, that this was a position that we would move forward, you had asked for these job descriptions, but I don't think it changes the discussion that we had that we were approving this position,
Well,
or
we-
bringing it forward for approval.
We usually approve job descriptions, we usually approve, I mean, I can't, this is something you need to study. When you get handed a packet like this at 5:30, you can't, without looking at it, vote on it that same night. We're adding a position, $75,000, and Jamie, you're saying we did not budget for this. I'm not prepared in any way to vote yes on this. I don't think we can. I haven't looked at this yet.
Okay, well, then I would, I guess, either entertain them. All right, hang on. Further discussion. Let's just finish up discussion. Lisa, then Dennis.
Jamie, are you saying that?
I am saying that. Excuse me, it was not a board-approved position, so I don't have that currently in the budget.
What did we do at the policy and personnel? We approved it,
You approved it to bring forward to the
Just for discussion.
just for the full board.
Correct.
Yes.
But I didn't even look at it.
Dr. Johnson, I'm sorry, President Andrews, ma'am.
Go ahead, Dr. Johnson. Do you have an opinion?
I think our human resource department, for the size of our district, is understaffed, and I support the position.
Right.
And I will reiterate, it is not an administrative position.
And I have the full, one second. And Pam, we have to be careful of how we word things. We had a discussion on this. In fact, when we met with the personnel director, I suggested that she entertain the idea, and she did as instructed. So I move approval.
And you did move approval, but I still wanted to say that we did have a discussion, and in that discussion, I asked for what I believe is this information. I'm not even on policy and personnel, but I was there. I picked up this packet, and I've had no time to look at it. I haven't even opened it. So I have no idea whether or not to support this. It's not something we budgeted. And, I mean, I would like to support it, but if we vote right now, I'd have to vote no, and that's why I'm asking. We don't do this for the record, we do this so board members can become aware, and I'm just asking for some time to digest this and think about it and talk to Jamie more about it. How's it going to affect our budget and so forth?
May I?
One last thing.
Okay, thank you. We have to be realistic, Pam, and state that our HR department is bombarded in so many different ways. It is the HR department that's responsible for open records requests. It's our HR department that is studying the compensation, the addendums issue. It is unfair to Deidre and our HR department to expect her to keep working at the level that she's working. If you listen to my motion, Board Member Charles, I said that I would support this, and I believe you should support it, with the caveat that once we do that final review, if one of those other positions is not required, the personnel and human resources, you're always
Human resources.
Human resource director has assured us that we would deal with that position at a later date. Our backs are against the wall as relates to getting greater productivity and meeting the needs of our stakeholders in the district. And so I call the question.
Do I have a second?
Yes.
All those in favor to call the question, say aye.
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 Those opposed?
No, it has to be a roll call vote.
Okay, go ahead and roll call vote. I'm sorry.
Anderson Levy,
Aye.
Baskin,
Aye.
Charles,
Nay.
Cronin,
Aye.
Endres,
Aye.
Volkart,
Aye.
Sanchez.
Aye.
Motion to call the question carries. I have a motion to approve additional allocation for human resources and a second. All those.
Roll call vote, please.
We'll go ahead and roll call vote that. Pam.
Okay.
Anderson Levy,
Aye.
Baskin,
Nay.
Aye.
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 Okay, moving on to personnel recommendations. May I please have a motion for personnel recommendations?
I move that we accept the personnel recommendations with the recommended amendments.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Could I ask that we have Michelle read for the record what the motion was from Policy and Personnel, so we go on the record with a solid motion?
Michelle, can you read what those amendments were, please?
Michelle, would you mind, well.
Go ahead and just read the motion from the Policy and Personnel, and then we'll go ahead.
At Policy Personnel, Anderson Levy moved to recommend. At the Policy Personnel Committee, Anderson Levy moved to recommend the personnel recommendations Exhibit A with the amendment for SN for up to 120 days, and that the approval of the addenda with the administration's responsibility of coming back within 60 days to correct any perceived inequities to the full Board of Education. And that was seconded by Klobuchar, and that motion carried.
Do I have a second for this
Second.
motion as it was read? Any discussion?
Yep, I already have Cronin as seconding that.
Okay. So can you please do this as a roll call vote?
Yep. Anderson Levy?
Aye.
Baskin?
Aye.
Charles?
Aye.
Cronin?
Aye.
Andrus?
Aye.
Klobuchar?
Aye.
Sanchez?
Aye.
Motion carries to approve the personnel recommendations. Moving on to discussion items. Are there items of interest for consideration at future board meetings? Seeing none, I'm going to move on to announcement of future board meeting dates. Committee meetings, November 14th, include Finance, Transportation, and Property, Curriculum and Instruction, Policy and Personnel. The business meeting is scheduled for November 28th. I would like to adjourn this meeting and return to our earlier recess meeting for the special board meeting, please.